Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If it's happening in professional wrestling, we're breaking it down. The matches, the moments, the rumors, and yes, even the hot takes. This is Pro Wrestling Focus. No nonsense, no wasted motion, just pure wrestling talk. Now, here's your host, Cody Springer.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Focus, and we're diving into all things WrestleMania Night 2. Now, before we get into the matches, let's address the elephant in the room. I've seen a lot of people online calling this the worst WrestleMania of all time. And look, I get the frustration. That main event didn't sit right with a lot of fans. Cody Rhodes loses, The Rock doesn't show up, Travis Scott does, and we end the biggest show of the year with John Cena standing tall and Cody staring at the title he just lost. All because he hesitated. But worst of all time? Come on. I've watched WrestleManias that were borderline unwatchable from start to finish. This wasn't even that. Disappointing finish? Sure. But there was still a lot to dig into. Good, bad, and everything in between. So we're going to break down Night 2 match by match. I'll give you my ratings, and we're going to talk about whether this ending ruined the show or people are overreacting. Let's get into it. All right, let's start off with the match that kicked off WrestleMania Night 2. It was for the WWE Women's World Championship. Iyo Sky defending her title against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. And wow, this match was fantastic. And it was everything I thought it would be. I mean, and you guys know I've been critical about the build. I thought the build of this match sucked. The story of telling didn't really make much sense to me. And yeah, it was frustrating. But I always knew that the match would deliver. And boy, did it ever. Wow. I mean, these three women worked their asses off to put together the best match that they possibly could. And it was just that, man. Man, these three gave it everything they had out in that ring. You know, it was the counters and the spots that they did in the match. Like, everything was just awesome. Totally awesome. And there was one moment in the match that I wanted to point out where, you know, Rhea Ripley kicked Iyo Sky in the head. And it looked like it rocked Iyo, right? And then Rhea went for the avalanche riptide, and then Iyo countered it. Like, yeah, she was playing possum there, you know. And you know, I was watching the show with my wife, and she was like, "What the hell?" You know. Well, that's the thing. She was playing possum. She did it perfectly. You know, she made you think that you know, she was actually out when she really wasn't. You know, and that's the art of, you know, of a performer that knows what they're doing in that ring. And Iyo Sky, you know, she is quite possibly the best women's wrestler, not only in the WWE, but in the entire world right now. Like, Iyo Sky is just incredible. And I am pleasantly surprised that she actually walked out of this match still Women's World Champion. You know, I predicted that Bianca Belair was going to win this match because I kind of felt Bianca, you know, was a little overdue for another run with the title. But I actually wanted Iyo to retain her title. I actually wanted Iyo to come into WrestleMania as champion and walk out of WrestleMania as champion. And we got exactly that. As far as a rating for this match, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 rating. I thought it was that good, honestly. And, you know, like, that's the thing. CM Punk, you know, he was saying that, you know, if he was booking Iyo, Bianca, and Rhea would be the main event over him. Well, honestly, I think this was the best match of night 2, and it probably should have main evented, you know. But it was a great opening match, and I've always said this, you know, if you're not the main event on a show like WrestleMania or any PLE, then you definitely want to go on first, so that way you're setting the tone for the entire night. And unfortunately, nobody else could top this match. You know, we had some other good matches in here, but this match right here was amazing. Absolutely amazing. The only thing that was preventing this from getting a 5 out of 5 rating was it should have went on a little bit longer. You know, I feel like I would have loved it if these three would have went like 30 minutes, but they went like 16, I believe. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they only went 16 minutes in the match. So it would have been nice if these three got a full 25 to 30 minute match and maybe slowed the pacing down a little bit, because, you know, I kind of felt like, you know, they really had to, you know, it was just like boom, 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 boom constantly, you know. And for these women to get only 14 to 16 minutes, I felt like that wasn't enough. You know, I felt like they should have gotten a lot longer. You know, I would have given them 25 to 30 minutes at least. You know, slow the pacing down a little bit, and, you know, and then really heat it up towards the end of the match. So, but either way, you know, this match was great, amazing. And yeah, definitely the best match of the night by far. All right, up next, we have the Sin City Street Fight, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. And, you know, I thought this was a pretty solid match overall. I didn't think it was great or anything like that, but it was pretty solid. You know, Drew McIntyre, I liked his entrance, and then Damian Priest came out and had Kerry King of Slayer shredding the guitar for his entrance, which I thought was pretty cool. But the actual match itself, it was good for what it was. You know, they had some table spots in there. They used weapons on each other. Had some action outside the ring, but it wasn't anything like really spectacular, in my opinion. You know, I think that these two could have done a lot more, but they did good for what they had, you know. I predicted that Drew McIntyre was going to win, and he did exactly that. I gave the match a 3.5 out of 5 rating. And the reason for that is because, you know, the reason why it's not a 4 or higher is because the physicality of the match wasn't really there like I had expected. You know, because these two have been getting at each other, and and the feud has been intense, and it's been, you just got two guys that just don't like each other. And they went at it on the kickoff show of WrestleMania on Friday. They were brawling on the stage, and they just didn't bring that same energy to the match. That's what I don't like sometimes. Like with WWE, they build up this really intense rivalry between these two guys that just want to kick each other's ass. They hate each other. They're like, you fucking piss me off. I'm going to beat your ass. They just. Yeah, the guys just don't like each other. But when we get to the actual match, though, like, they're just, like, going through the motions. Like, come on. You guys need to bring that same energy to the match that you had going in. These guys got to beat the hell out of each other. They got to get physical. They got to, make it look like an actual fight. Instead, this just kind of fell a little flat, Not saying it was totally disappointing. I think that one spot where Priest was trying to do his version of the old school, and then McIntyre pushed him off the top rope and he crashed through two tables. That was an insane spot. I thought that was a creative spot in the match. And then it set Drew McIntyre up for the win when he hit the Claymore on Priest, and Priest, his head bounced off the steel chair. And then Drew got the win. I thought I liked that. That was pretty creative. But yeah, this match was what I thought it would be. Drew McIntyre wins and built his momentum going forward.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
All right, up next here we have the Fatal 4-Way for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker, the badass, defending against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. Yeah, I think these four guys, they put on a really good match. I liked it. I feel like all four of them got an equal spotlight in this match. Finn and Dom, they were working together as a team early on, but you knew at some point they were going to have to go against one another. And that's exactly that. Dom struck first blood. He tried to go for that 619 on Balor. Balor countered. And, he just started going to town on Dom, stomping away at him. And this would play a factor in the ending of the match. Because Finn Balor hit a coup de grace on Braun Breaker. And then he goes for the pin. And then Dom, who was crotched on the ropes, hit a frog splash on Breaker and Finn. And then he pins Finn to get the victory. So therefore, your new Intercontinental Champion is Dominic Mysterio, just like I had predicted. And yeah, I had a feeling this was coming, man. That Dom was going to be the one to win the title here. And yeah, this is awesome. Dom has put in the work to become one of the most hated heels in the WWE today. Dom is very over as a heel. The crowd can't stand him. And, he's become one of the more prominent figures in the company. He's, and the thing about Dom, he's very young. He's still got many years left in this business. And, as he goes on, I think he's going to become definitely up there in the top echelon of the company. I mean, right now, he's just establishing himself and, got a big win here and became the Intercontinental Champion. As far as the match rating goes, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Very good match. And, and it told the story. Dom and Finn have been, like this. They've been really intense with each other. And I think this is going to lead to Finn Balor being kicked out of the group. And we could see that on Raw this coming Monday, and Finn pretty much getting dumped out of the group. And hopefully this could lead to a face turn for Finn Balor. And then maybe Finn can get back into where he was before this Judgment Day stuff started happening. And he was part of the group and all that. But yeah, very good match. And I love that Dominic Mysterio won the title. And we're going to see where he goes from here. All right, up next, we had Randy Orton's Open Challenge. As we know, it was supposed to be Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, but unfortunately, Kevin Owens got hurt in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, and he'll need neck surgery. I recorded my show on Thursday for the predictions for this card, and I thought it'd be Randy Orton versus Nick Aldis, but that did not happen. They looked like they were going to go that way, but they changed plans and they completely went away from that. And so Randy Orton came out, laid down the challenge, to anybody in the back who wanted to step up. And what we got was totally unexpected. Yeah, Randy Orton's opponent was the TNA champion, Joe Hendry. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Yes, Joe Hendry was Randy Orton's opponent at WrestleMania. And holy crap, dude. I couldn't believe it. Joe Hendry, yeah, he's been around in WWE. He was in NXT. He was at the Royal Rumble in January. But I did not expect him to compete at WrestleMania, against Randy Orton of all people. But, the match was very short. It wasn't anything special, really. It was a very quick 3-minute match. Randy Orton defeated Joe Hendry with an RKO. And I have to give it a 2 out of 5 rating. Like I said, nothing really talk about here other than the surprise of Joe Hendry. And, I predicted that Randy Orton would win. It was before I knew it was going to be an open challenge. And Randy Orton did win. I think this was more about, making sure Orton got his match on his 20th WrestleMania. And, this is also helping Joe Hendry too. Even though he lost, I'm telling you, more people definitely know more about Joe Hendry now than they did before. And I think eventually, once Joe Hendry's contract with TNA comes to an end, then I think he's definitely going to get picked up by WWE. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. Joe Hendry can make appearances in WWE because of the partnership that TNA and WWE have, but I think he's going to become a full-fledged member of the roster once his TNA contract is over. So I think in the future, Joe Hendry's going to keep making little appearances here and there, but until that contract expires, And Joe Hendry is won't be a full-fledged member of the roster until that contract is signed. So, but yeah. So, yeah, this was great for Randy Orton, great for Joe Hendry, and great for the fans. But as far as the match goes itself, 2 out of 5.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, up next was Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. And other than the main event, this was the longest match of the night. And I don't know why the hell it needed to be. I did not care for this match at all. I thought it'd be a lot better than what it was. But yeah, it just didn't hit for me, and the end of the match sucked. Like, I did not care for this match at all, really. There was nothing special about it. And, then Logan Paul, one of his stooges, was trying to slip in some brass knuckles and everything. But Karrion Kross, of all people, shows up and stops the guy. And then Kross tries to get AJ to use the brass knuckles, but AJ's like, nope, not doing that. And he punches Karrion Kross. And then, goes, and then and that distraction costs Styles because he gets, hit by that KO punch that is just so fucking unbelievable. I can't buy into that at all, dude. And then Logan hits AJ with the pulverizer, which I've said before is a very cool looking finishing move. It really is. But yeah, I don't know, man. This just didn't make a lot of sense to me why Logan Paul went over here, because he is most likely not going to be around after WrestleMania. He's going to take another hiatus probably. He's a part-timer, so we're probably not going to see him until probably SummerSlam, more than likely. So, yeah, I don't understand why they decided to have Logan Paul go over on AJ Styles when AJ's most likely going to be there the next night on Raw, I just don't understand it. So, yeah, I predicted that AJ Styles was going to win, and Logan Paul was the actual winner. The match, I give it a 2.5 out of 5 rating. It was okay at best. It was not a great match. It wasn't even a good match, in my opinion. It was kind of, shit, and if I'm being perfectly honest. But, yeah, so... yeah, that's how I feel about that one. All right, up next, we have the WWE Women's Tag Team title match. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defending their titles against Lyra Valkyria and a partner of her choosing. It was supposed to be Lyra and Bayley, but Bayley was attacked the previous day in backstage, so therefore she was not medically cleared to compete. So Lyra had to find a new partner, and well, she found someone she's very familiar with. The man, Becky Lynch, made her return as Lyra's tag team partner. Yeah, this was nice to see. Seeing Becky Lynch come back here at WrestleMania in an unexpected way. And yeah, it was an awesome moment for sure. Lyra and Becky, they have history with each other because if you remember when Becky had her little run in NXT as the NXT Women's Champion, it was Lyra Valkyria who beat Becky Lynch to become the NXT Women's Champion. And that kind of put Lyra on the fast track to get to where she is now here on the main roster. So Lyra and Becky come out on top. They beat Liv and Raquel. And the match itself was pretty good, but I'm giving it the 3.5 rating here for pretty much for Becky's return here. Because that crowd, was on point when she came out. They were excited. I was excited to see Becky, and it was a great return. And then they win the tag team titles, and now Lyra Valkyria has 2 championships. She is the Women's Intercontinental Champion and one half of the Women's Tag Team Champions. But the question is now, where does Bayley fit into this? What's the story here? She was mysteriously attacked. Liv and Raquel were being accused of attacking her. And, we all know what the history is there, because Liv and Raquel were blamed for Jade Cargill's attack. Come to find out it wasn't them. And now they're being blamed for Bayley's attack. To be honest, this could be set up another heel turn for the man. They could reveal that Becky was the one who attacked Bayley, but that would seem a little obvious. Maybe it was Lyra that attacked Bayley. Hey, I don't know. That'd be kind of crazy. That'd be a little bit of a twist, but I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, like I said, I give this a 3.5 out of 5 rating. I predicted that Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez would win, but that was before I knew that Bayley was not going to be in the match. But yeah, so Lyra and Becky pick up the win, and they're your new Women's Tag Team Champions. All right, the main event for the WWE Championship. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, against the greatest of all time, the GOAT, John Cena. This main event right here, man. Not good. Not a good WrestleMania main event. The match itself was pretty good. Actually, the in-ring work, was pretty solid. I kind of wish they did a little bit more, but yeah, John Cena hit Cody with like 4 attitude adjustments, including an avalanche AA off the top rope, and still couldn't get the job done. And Cena was just looking like he's like, what do I have to do to beat this guy? Because Cody was kicking out of everything that Cena threw at him. And then Travis Scott comes out, Yeah, we get the Travis Scott's Fiend song playing, and he comes down to the ring with his own rendition of the Hardcore Championship. He comes down to the ring, and I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, Travis Scott's going to come out, and then The Rock is going to come out next. That did not happen. The Rock did not show up here. I think a lot of people were expecting The Rock to show up here, and he did not. Instead, Travis Scott came out by himself. He gets on the ring apron. John Cena's happy to see him and everything. He raises his hand, and then Cody, the referee's down, by the way. So yeah, Cody goes after Cena and tries to get his hands on Travis Scott. And then Travis Scott actually got into the ring, and he tried to smack Cody Rhodes like he did at Elimination Chamber, and Cody blocked it. And Cody's like, oh no, not this time. And then Cody Rhodes hits Travis Scott with the crossroads, taking him down. And then John Cena tries to hit Cody Rhodes with the WWE Championship once again, like he did at the Elimination Chamber, but Cody blocks that. And then Cody wrestles the championship away from Cena, and Cody's got the chance to hit Cena in the head with the title like he did to Cody at the Chamber. And Cena's begging and pleading with Cody, like, oh, don't do it, don't do it. I take everything back, dude, I'm sorry, Cena's begging and pleading for Cody not to do it, and Cody's conflicted. Cody, he's conflicted. He doesn't want to do the wrong thing. He refuses to compromise his principles, and it cost him. Because John Cena kicks Cody Rhodes in the dick once again, like he did at the Chamber, and then he clocks Cody in the head with the championship. Then John Cena ends up covering Cody Rhodes. And then 1, 2, 3. Your winner, John Cena. So, yeah, I knew Cena was going to win. I predicted that in my prediction show. But I predicted an elaborate, finish. I predicted that John Cena, it was going to come down to this point where he was going to need help, right? And then Travis Scott and The Rock come down, and then Cena, Rock, and Travis Scott try to beat the hell out of Cena, or try to beat the hell out of Rhodes like they did at the Elimination Chamber. And then CM Punk would come out to try to save Cody, and then Seth Rollins would come out to stop Punk. But that obviously did not happen. I think a lot of people were pissed off that The Rock didn't show up. And I don't know why Rock didn't show up. That's unclear. It didn't make a whole lot of sense why he didn't show up, because he was supposedly in Hawaii. He wasn't filming a movie or anything like that, so I don't know why Rock didn't show up this time around. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I don't know, maybe there's a larger story at play that goes beyond WrestleMania, but for now, John Cena has won his 17th World Championship. He has finally broken Ric Flair's record of most title reigns in history for the world title. But as a WrestleMania main event, this did not deliver. I'm sorry, but it didn't for me. I have to give it a 2.5 out of 5 rating. That piss poor ending did not do it for me. It really didn't. I think they swung and they missed. I mean, I'm not questioning the decision. I definitely would like to see a John Cena with the championship, see what he does. He's saying that he's going to ruin wrestling, and he's going to retire as the champion. It's an interesting dynamic, it really is. So, it's going to be interesting to see what Cena does, going forward, and how he is going to ruin wrestling. We're going to find out on Raw what that is. And yeah, so disappointing end to the match, but I'm not going against the decision. John Cena, it made all the sense in the world for him to win. All right, let's round it all up, guys. So I had 4 out of 7 matches correct. Once again, that gives me a 57.14%. I had the same percentage correct for night 1. I have to give WrestleMania night 2 a final rating of a 6 out of 10. Like I said, there was some cool moments, some high spots for WrestleMania night 2. It started off great, and then as we got progressively further into the night, things kind of went a little downhill. Becky Lynch returning was definitely great to see. Dominic Mysterio becoming the Intercontinental Champion, that was great to see. Joe Hendry making his WrestleMania debut was also cool to see. But yeah, that main event just kind of left a blemish on this WrestleMania night 2. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 rating. And then if you combine my night 1 and my night 2 ratings, the overall WrestleMania 41 rating is a 7 out of 10. So yeah, not the worst of all time like people are saying. It had some issues, it had some great moments, but in the end, I think a 7 out of 10 definitely fits this particular WrestleMania. But, it's all my opinion. You guys are more than welcome to disagree with me on that. I'm not going to, argue with you on it. We can agree to disagree. But yeah, that's a wrap on night 2 of WrestleMania 41. And I hear you. The ending wasn't what many of us expected. Cody's journey takes a massive detour. John Cena walks out with the title. And The Rock didn't show up. Travis Scott did. It was chaotic, controversial, and it left a lot of fans divided. But that's the thing about WrestleMania. It's not just about feel-good moments. Sometimes it's about shock. Sometimes it's about the story continuing when you thought it was over. So I'm curious, do you think they blew it? Or is this setting up something even bigger down the line? Drop your thoughts and theories. Let me know if you were one of the many screaming at your TV screen when John Cena got that 3 count. But thank you for tuning in. I'll be back soon with more Fallout coverage and what this all means heading into the rest of the year. Until then, stay focused.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.